Hey guys, video Vince with the Camera Exchange. So today I want to talk about the Panasonic Lumix S1H. We recently released a video on the Panasonic Lumix 24-70 f2.8. So make sure to go watch that video, like it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's talk about the S1H since I was using it on that video. I'm mainly going to be talking about my experiences while using the camera while I was out in the field. But I will be going over some of the specs and some of the features, so let's get into it. So I'm going to be breaking this video down into sections. Then I'll be going into detail and my experiences in those sections. So let's start off with the sensor. It is a 24 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor. It does have 14 stops of dynamic range, and the ISO extends all the way from 100 all the way up to 51,200. I should also mention that the S1H has a dual native ISO. On the low end it is at 640 and on the high end it is at 4,000. And that dual native ISO does come in handy when you're shooting in low light situations. The sensor is also stabilized with an in-body 5-axis stabilization. And when you're using the 24-105 that has the optical image stabilization, it can compensate up to 6 stops of camera shake. I did use the S1H and the 24-105, but unfortunately I wasn't able to test the stabilization because I mostly had the camera on a tripod most of the time. But I can also tell you that Panasonic is touted to have some of the best stabilization in the game, and I don't doubt that for a second. So let's talk about the construction of the S1H. It is a pretty thick and heavy camera, coming in a little over 2.5 pounds. And that is because it is made out of magnesium alloy, and it's also weather sealed, splash proof, dust resistant, and also freeze proof. So if you're using this camera outdoors, it'll be a perfect setup for that. Okay, so now that we've talked about construction of the camera, let's talk about what it actually feels like in the hand. Again, it is a 2.5 pound camera, so it's gonna feel a little bit odd holding a huge chunk of magnesium alloy. But I do feel like it is a very comfortable camera, and that is with great help of the grip. The grip is nice and deep, all 4 fingers fit in it, and it never feels like you're gonna lose the camera, which is always an awesome feeling to have. So let's talk about the top of the camera. You do have a nice button layout, you do have your ISO, white balance, and an exposure compensation button, along with a big red record button that you can't miss. You also have a small information LCD screen that I thought was pretty good in sunlight. On the back of the camera, you also have a really nice button layout as well. You got a scroll wheel, you got dials up top, you also have a nice joystick. Now that joystick is perforated, so you can definitely feel where it's at. You're never going to lose it, and it's really nice having it on the back of the camera. You also have a focus selector, which gives you the option to switch between single, continuous, and manual focus. There is also a great button that I found very, very helpful inside of that selector, where it gives you more options for the autofocus. So on the side of the camera, you do get a full 3.5 millimeter mic jack and a headphone jack. So you won't need any adapters. Below that, you will have a USB Type-C and a full-size HDMI. So if you're using any external recorders, you'll be able to use those full HDMI cables. So moving back onto the screen, it is a 3.2-inch LCD with a resolution of 2.3 million dots. It does tilt up and down, but it does also swivel out to you. So if you're doing any type of vlogging or self-recording, that screen is definitely going to come in handy. Now I did notice while I was out in the field that the screen didn't get that bright, but that's where the EVF came in. The EVF is a 5.7 million dot resolution OLED, and let me tell you, this EVF is definitely one of the best on the market today. So Panasonic did include an internal fan in the camera body itself. Now what that's going to help out with is it's going to help out with any overheating issues that may arise. It also gives you the ability to record non-stop, so there's no record time limit, which is really nice to see. Now, when I was on location, I didn't notice any of that fan noise, but Panasonic did give you some options to turn it on and off, and it only come on when it needs to. So let's talk about the battery life. I was really impressed with what was given to me. Now, I was shooting 10-bit 422 all-I in vlog. I was also in daylight, so there was quite a bit of sun beaming down on the camera itself. We started at 10:30 and ended around 3:30. I didn't have to change any batteries. I only had one single one with me, which is always risky, but I ended at 29%. And I do think that that fan helped out incredibly. And I was really impressed again with what that battery life was able to give me. So let's talk about the video quality. Now, I'm not going to go over all of the video codecs, but I was really impressed with how many video codecs that Panasonic put into this camera. I'm just astonished that they were able to give you just about everything that an amateur filmmaker needs. So one of the main selling features of this camera is that it shoots 6K. Albeit it does shoot 10-bit in 420, so it doesn't give you the same color space when you're shooting in 4K. But I was able to get some 6K footage, so check it out right here. So before going out on location and testing the camera out in the streets, I did go to a coffee shop to test some of its low light capabilities. Now again, the camera does have dual native ISO of 640 and 4000. So being in this low light situation, I was using Vlog and able to get some footage in slow motion. Now when using that 60 frames per second, Panasonic does give you a super 35mm crop, but I thought the crop was okay, so check out some of the footage here. So all in all, from the footage that I was able to get from the coffee shop and on our video from the 24 to 72.8, I was really happy with what I was getting. The image was super clean, super sharp. The dynamic range was just absolutely stunning. I was able to color correct and color grade with no hesitation whatsoever. Now go ahead and leave a link in the description below for you guys to download some of that footage and mess around with it if you want. So the last place that I really want to talk about is autofocus. And that seems to be Panasonic's big hindrance, is the continual autofocus. And that is because that they have the depth by defocus autofocus system that doesn't work too well. When I was on location, I did use the continuous autofocus function. I did have it on the face and eye detection, and it did pretty well, but I wasn't too happy with it, and I definitely wasn't confident. So after shooting the intro, what I did was I focused on my subject and then I switched it to manual focus. And that definitely helped out quite a bit. I believe if you're shooting videos, the autofocus function is super fast and super accurate, but when it comes to video, that just doesn't seem to be their strong point. I would like to believe that people that are buying the S1H are really not worried too much about the autofocus functions. I do believe that they are adapting cinema glass or vintage glass to get that cinema look, so the autofocus functions are just not what they're looking for. Alright, so that's all I really have to say about the S1H. In my personal experience using it out on location and getting some real world footage, I was absolutely stunned with what Panasonic put into this camera. Now, do I believe that the camera is worth $4,000? To the right consumer, yes. But if you're just getting into videos and are looking for a good hybrid, I would highly recommend looking into the Panasonic S1. It is the S1H's little brother, and the S1 packs just as a hard punch as the S1H, but without the 6K and the swivel screen. If you like this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, check out our Panasonic 24-70 2.8 review. Subscribe to our channel. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We'll check you guys next time.